Very good evening. This is Newsfirst, Sri Lanka's premier news brand, and you're watching the weekend edition of Primetime News. We're coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst studios here in Colombo. I am Joel Outscoon. We start off with a look at our headlines. Military coup in Turkey ends within few hours. 754 army personnel detained. The army sergeant who allegedly kidnapped the driver of Lasantha Vikramatunga apprehended. Oil tanker carrying low-quality crude oil that arrived at the Colombo port turned back. 4 villagers in Thanamalvila face a drinking water crisis. On your top story, at least 754 army personnel were detained across Turkey today after a coup attempt, with a total arrested expected to rise over 1,500. The Turkish government fired colonels and generals and rescued the military chief as government forces fought to squash a coup attempt during a night of explosions, air battles and gunfire that left at least 161 dead and 1,440 injured.
What was expected to be a quiet Friday night turned into a chaotic scene in Istanbul, with a group of army personnel taking strategic positions while rolling tanks into Istanbul. Airports were shut, access to internet social media sites were cut off, and troops sealed off 2 bridges over the Bosphorus in Istanbul, one of which was still lit up in red, white and blue in solidarity with victims of the Bastille Day truck attack in France a day earlier. Later in the night, the Turkish state broadcaster TRT was taken off the air after an announcer read a statement from the military saying it had taken over the government in a coup. An announcer read a statement on the orders of the military that accused the government of eroding the democratic and secular rule of law. Warplanes flew over Istanbul aiming to crush the coup that broke into action in the night. Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan urged people to take to the streets and protest against what he described as a coup attempt by a minority faction within the military, vowing that it would meet with a necessary response. He told a CNN Turk reporter via cell phone that Turkish people must gather in public squares to show their response, broadcast live on television. CNN Turk halted its live news broadcast as a presenter said soldiers had entered the studio control room. Video later released by the station showed soldiers walking into the building and up the stairs. Residents took to the streets to force the army plotting to overthrow the government to stop advancing. However, they were met with sporadic gunfire and the shocking footage was recorded on a mobile phone. Mobile phone footage showed extensive damage to Turkey's parliament in the capital Ankara after an overnight military coup attempt. MPs were forced to hide in shelters as the legislature came under tank fire. This morning, forces loyal to the Turkish government fought to crush the remnants of a military coup attempt. The coup attempt crumbled after crowds answered President Tayyip Erdogan's call to take to the streets as dozens of rebels abandoned their tanks. Around 50 soldiers involved in the coup surrendered on one of the bridges across the Bosphorus Strait in Istanbul after dawn today, abandoning their tanks with their hands raised in the air. Soldiers who stormed the state-run TRT studios in Istanbul surrendered to police amid cheerful applaud from AK party supporters. One of the arrested leaders of the coup gave the order for the rebellious troops to surrender at the request of the security forces who currently have the leader in their hands. The remaining rebel commanders were arrested by the authorities.
Yeğenim öldü dün akşam, pisine yani. Pisine yeğenim öldü yani. Şimdi onun cenazesini almaya gidiyorum yani karşıya.
Last night a military coup happened in Turkey and 60 people were killed. 754 officers of Turkish army were arrested. So the Turkish soldiers are our brothers, and the privates they were not informed what was going on. However, their officers of the Turkish army, they were informed, and high level of generals or colonels were involved in this coup. However, everything is under control right now. The chief of command of Turkey was taken hostage. Now he is also rescued. He's back to his work.
Meanwhile, Turkey has demanded the extradition of 8 soldiers who fled to Greece after a coup attempt on late Friday. Political asylum is requested from Greece by the 8 crew members of the Turkish military helicopter that landed at the airport of Alexandropoli. However, police headquarters in Komotini confirmed that the 8 people were arrested by Greek police. In local news this evening, a sergeant attached to the intelligence unit of the Sri Lanka Army who allegedly kidnapped the driver of veteran journalist Lasantha Vikramatunga has been arrested.
The suspect was arrested in the Mount Livina area last evening by the Criminal Investigations Department. The suspect was produced before the Mount Livina magistrate Mohammed Shabdin this afternoon. Allegations were raised against the suspect for kidnapping the driver of late Lasantha Vikramatunga and interrogating him.
අද දින කොළඹ අපරාධ විමර්ශන කොට්ටාසය මගින් ලසන්ත වික්‍රමතුංග ඝාතන සිද්ධියට අදාළව සැකකරුවෙකුට
A senior officer of the intelligence unit has been produced for kidnapping and threatening a suspect who is connected to the murder of Lasantha Vikramatunga. He was directed to the CID to be interrogated under detention orders for 24 hours. He will be produced before an open court tomorrow, and if there is a need for an identification parade, the court ordered today that the facts regarding it to be provided. However, there seems to be an attempt to expose some of the senior members of the intelligence unit and to create a link between them and this case.
අද දින ගරු අධිකරණ
Sri Lankan Airlines flights will be limited to the Middle East and Asia in another 3 months. Sri Lankan Aviation Services trade unions have raised concerns that this could spell impending doom of the national carrier.
Sri Lankan Airlines operated direct flights to Paris, Rome, Frankfurt, Germany and London in addition to its flights to the Middle East and Asia. The first cancellation was the flights operating towards Rome. This was done last April. Plans have been made to cancel the flights to Frankfurt, Germany from the month of October. The direct flights to Paris, France will be cancelled by November. The direct flights to London will be the only flight that Sri Lankan Airlines operates towards Europe. That too will be 1 flight per day.
ඉතින් මේ ජාතික ගුවන් සේවය ස්වභාවික අවසානයක් කරා යන ගමනක්.
The national carrier is heading towards a natural death. When we cancel the flights to destinations like Paris and Frankfurt, the amount of tourists arriving from these countries will decline. This will in turn affect the tourism industry. While we are reducing the number of destinations, other carriers are expanding to these destinations. We have to understand who gains from the business opportunity that we will let go of.
වැඩි කරනවා. ඉතින් ඒකෙන් අපි තේරුම් ගන්න ඕනේ අපි අතාරින ව්‍යාපාරික අවස්ථාව කවුද ප්‍රයෝජනෙට ගන්නෙ කියලා.
Flights operating towards Europe are being cancelled in a backdrop where an individual has been appointed to the designation of promotions head for Europe and America.
මේ වෙනකොට යුරෝපයේ විශාල
There are officers in Europe who are working for Sri Lankan Airlines and are receiving a large salary even at present. Such decisions were reached on earlier occasions as well. Flights to Frankfurt and Paris were cancelled and reinstated on a number of occasions. Certain decisions were made purely based on political motives. Public funds are being wasted due to decisions such as this one.
ඉතින් මේ හැම තීන්දුවකින්ම නැති වෙන්නේ රටේ ධනෙ.
Meanwhile, the Voice Against Corruption movement is stating that the government has turned a blind eye towards the JC Valiamno reports that highlight the anomalies at Sri Lankan Airlines. The services of Sri Lankan Airlines are being handed over to other aviation companies. Now they are planning on selling off the destinations to which Sri Lankan Airlines operates to. The recommendations of the JC Valiamno report have not been implemented. The individuals who caused harm to Sri Lankan Airlines are still free. What has happened now is that the national carrier has come to a stage where it's facing a huge risk. Therefore, what the government should do is, instead of holding discussions regarding selling this company, they should hold discussions as to how to raise Sri Lankan Airlines from this crisis.
23,000 metric tons of substandard aviation fuel that was imported to the country has been turned back.
A vessel carrying fuel sourced by a Singaporean company arrived in Colombo and subsequently samples of the fuel were tested.
The diesel that was imported was unloaded in Colombo after the shipment passed the necessary tests. However, the consignment of A1 aviation fuel that was brought along with it was turned back after failing the initial examinations.
During the Mahinda Rajapaksa administration, substandard aviation fuel was imported through a Chinese company in order to save 25 cents in US dollars. However, they had to pay a sum of $3.60 per litre of fuel to the ports. We will not allow something like this to take place once again. What was imported was aviation fuel. If it is proven to be substandard, it should definitely be turned back. We will not allow aviation fuel to be unloaded as kerosene.
A second test was conducted on the aviation fuel today, based on a request extended by the Singaporean company.
We tested fuel samples on a number of occasions in order to ensure that it met the required standards. However, since the fuel failed these tests, we decided to reject this shipment. Just because we rejected this shipment does not mean that we will suffer a shortage. If the second test comes back negative, a fine should be charged. We call on the officials to not allow such companies to import aviation fuel to the country once again.
Meanwhile, the subject minister assured the public that speedy measures will be taken to ensure that the country has enough fuel to meet the demands of the public.
As soon as we received information about this bad shipment, we called for fresh tenders. We have received the new tenders. I need to assure the public that the ministry and the Ceylon Petroleum Corporation will ensure that there is no fuel shortage.
Coal, a resource that has gained the attention of many these days. This is yet another revelation of yet another adverse effect of the usage of coal.
At first look, these ladies' fingers seem to be riddled with disease. However, a closer look reveals the real reason behind their appearance. These crops have been affected by the open piles of coal that have been dumped near the Norochole coal power plant. The strong breeze that flows through the area carries small particles of coal dust from the power plant to neighboring areas such as this.
All of my onions were destroyed. All our vegetable patches were burnt. We're always in our vegetable patches, and this dust goes into our lungs when we breathe.
All around this area, we were able to witness withering trees and plants due to the effects of coal dust. The situation has adversely affected the day-to-day lives of many in the area.
The dust is even in the books of children. We constantly have to clean it. This is a great nuisance.
We cannot live in our houses. Children get sick. We are in a very helpless situation. Most children suffer from asthma. We fall sick all the time, unlike in the past.
Speaking in Nitambo today, parliamentarian Rohita Begunabodhana requested the Police Financial Crimes Investigation Division to commence investigations into the controversial coal scam.
Recently, it was revealed that the largest ever theft to take place through a tender was the coal scam. The theft of the 100-day government has been exposed and the Supreme Court has issued an interpretation. The Auditor General is noting that certain incidents have taken place. This has not been taken before the FCID or the CID. It is being probed by a committee appointed by the ministry. Namal Rajapaksa is being investigated by the FCID. The country is watching these incidents.
Parliamentarian Bandulal Bandarigode expressed these views during a function held in Hikkadwa yesterday.
This country can move forward. However, in my opinion, the only way to do that is through punishing those who engaged in fraud. I don't think meting out punishments to those who committed a wrong can be described as an act of vengeance. Those who are being investigated and prosecuted issue indirect warnings saying that they will take care of things when they return to power. What they are doing is threatening the police and the judiciary.
And on to a developing story. An artificial scarcity of goods. According to many consumers, an artificial scarcity of goods has been created in the market following the decision reached by the government to impose control prices for 16 essential items.
On the 14th of July, control prices were introduced for 16 essential food items by the government. What is the current situation in the markets? Can I purchase a kilogram of sugar?
We do not have sugar because we cannot sell it for 95 rupees. We do not bring sugar. In Peta, 1 kilogram is 105 rupees. We did not bring dal as well. We cannot sell sugar. We have stopped the sale of sugar. The wholesale price is 110 rupees. They want us to sell 100 grams of sprats for 50 rupees. We cannot provide these goods to the people. Sugar priced at 95 rupees is not available. In Peta, 1 kilogram is priced at 113 rupees. We cannot sell it for the control price. We purchased 1 kilogram of sprats for 580 rupees, but we are asked to sell it for 490 rupees. The price of chickpeas is 280 rupees. The control price is 260 rupees. Sugar is priced at 110 rupees in the wholesale market. We did not bring any of these items here. We have to turn back the customers. I went in the morning and returned empty. They claim the price to be 115 rupees. The wholesalers mention these prices without any fear. What are we to do? How can we buy a pack and sell it at the control price? The price in the bazaar is 95 rupees. There needs to be a maximum retail price and the maximum wholesale price.
The Consumer Affairs Authority notes that the benefit of the price reduction should be given to the consumers.
The consumers can make a complaint by calling 1977. We have been informed that traders are hiding stocks. If we carry out a raid, the entire stock will be taken to courts and will be confiscated. A normal shop can be fined from between 1,000 rupees to 10,000 rupees. One can also be imprisoned for 6 months under the Consumer Affairs Authority Act. If a private company is found guilty, the fine would be from 10,000 rupees to 100,000 rupees. There is provision to do so under the Act.
The Consumer Affairs Authority carried out raids today to nab traders selling goods above the controlled price. The CAA notes that 200 raids were carried out across the country, while legal action was taken against 65 shops.
Some places have enacted the control price, while some have not. Legal action will be taken against traders who do not comply with the new control price and for selling goods above the control price. If the government introduces a price, it needs to be sold at that price. This is a legal matter.
Well, tonight on our segment, The Frontline, we will be discussing the current economic situation in the country. And for this, we have with us in our studio senior journalist Faraz Shakwadali. Good evening, Faraz.
Good evening, Joe.
Let's get to the point directly for us.
Indeed.
Well, the prices of 16 essential goods have been reduced. What's this all about? Is this a long-term plan? Is it a short-term plan? Your point.
I think that the imposition of price control on these 16 essential items is the President is reacting to the concerns of the public, and so public concern has been aroused to this, and the President has been very keen on ensuring that people aren't burdened even more, and so as a result we have these price controls which are good for the moment, but it doesn't. We have no indication whether this is for the long term or the short term, but it's here for now in any event.
It's here for now in any event.
Indeed.
Okay, right. Also for us, value-added tax is something which is spoken much amongst the public, or commonly known as VAT.
The VAT issue, as it's known, has troubled the people even more, and especially when it was being imposed on the medical sector, for example. Now the Supreme Court has said that this was wrong to do without the necessary and proper legislation. The Prime Minister has responded by saying that he is confident that this matter is before Parliament now, and that by the 23rd of July that it will be passed, because the national government have a majority in the House. However, we have to take note that some members of the SLFP have petitioned their leader and said that they are not willing to be part of this exercise in which the people will be placed under further stress and under further burden. So it may not be a cakewalk for the Prime Minister in the way that he appears to say in that note that he sent us.
Okay. And also for us, when the government of good governance came into power, one of the things which they mentioned was that economic stability will be was a promise made. But then they seem to be putting forward short-term plans. What's going on in this?
Their policies have been rather ad hoc, and it has been reactive. There has been utterly poor fiscal management, as seen by many things, and it's deeply worrying. And of course, the people are continuing to worry. It's a bit of a letdown, really, that the fiscal management is in such an appalling condition, and clearly the government to survive will need to address that issue. Otherwise, they will find that the public opinion will move against them.
Well, thank you very much for expressing your views today with us.
Thank you, John.
Thanks a lot. In more news, the annual general meeting of the Sri Lanka-Malaysia Business Council was held in Colombo yesterday.
Sri Lanka-Malaysia Business Council is a bilateral business council that comes under the Ceylon Chamber of Commerce, which promotes trade and other corporate relationships between the two countries.
Just a few days after this, we will see that the Honorable Deputy Prime Minister of Malaysia will be undertaking an official visit to Sri Lanka starting from Wednesday until Friday next week. As you all aware, the bilateral trade between Sri Lanka and Malaysia is still imbalanced. Imbalanced in the way that Malaysia has full advantage of having 5-to-1 ratio in terms of its export to Sri Lanka as compared to its import from Sri Lanka. I'm hoping that we are moving towards a more balanced trade.
The chief economist at the CCC, Anushka Vijayasinghe, delivered the keynote address.
Parts of the private sector had got used to a highly centralized, sometimes parasitic relationship with the state. Special interests flourished. I mean, in budget speeches, you could, as the speech was being read out and the new proposals announced, you could almost name the company or companies or individuals that the proposal was meant to help. Policymaking was concentrated and stubborn. In this new transition, policymaking seems to be more discursive, noisy, and messy. More voices seem to be heard, more opinions seem to be at least considered, and of course, as a result, things are slower. Now, whether that's a good thing or not in the short to medium term, I think the jury is still out on that. But as an economist, I firmly believe that in the long term, this is good. It's messy, but it's good. But then again, as economist John Maynard Keynes said, in the long run, we are all dead.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
Dark tears of a village without a road. Children begging for a drop of water. Brackish water village that sacrifices kidneys.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
The road that leads to the Damiana junction to the Alapola area in Dambulla is one which had not been renovated in a number of years. For 3 generations, people who live in this area have not seen even a single stone being laid on this road.
In fact, we can't walk on this road, let alone ride a bicycle. When elections are nearing, people come and promise that the roads would be fixed. However, up to date, authorities have not even used a layer of gravel on this road.
Students at the Periya Parandan School in Kilinochi are not only thirsty for knowledge, they are also thirsty for water. The simple request extended by these students is a water tank for their school.
We have informed the authorities on several occasions in this regard, but the problem remains. Even parents bring water from other villages. The main problem that this village faces is the water problem. Therefore, we kindly request authorities to provide a solution to this.
For years, residents of the Kulagammane in Thanamalvilla have been facing an enemy that they simply cannot avoid, a contaminated water supply. As a result of this, area residents ranging from children to elders have been forced to suffer the dire effects of kidney diseases.
This is the water that we have to drink. We don't have clean water to drink. We told so many people, but no one looks into it. By the age of 15 and 16, our children become sick, and by the age of 18 and 19, they die.
The Gammadda 100-day initiative. With the people, for the people.
Residents of 4 villages in Thanamalvilla engaged in a protest today requesting clean drinking water.
Vehicular movement along the Thanamalvilla-Colombo main road was also hampered owing to the protest carried out by residents of Thanamalvilla, Suriyara, Uskala, Mahavava, Nikavava and Kodagama villages. They carry out estimates every day. They come during election period and lie to us saying water will be provided. They show a fake affection. We are only asking for water, not food.
We are dying here without water. There is the kidney disease as well. The children have dental problems. We do not have any other request.
The protesters then arrived at the Thanamalvilla town. The unemployed Ayurvedic graduates earlier commenced a Satyagraha campaign before the Institute of Indigenous Medicine in Rajagiriya. However, the police arrived at the location today and demanded that they stop their protest campaign at the location. The unemployed graduates were not deterred by the police directives, simply shifted their makeshift tents to the Ayurvedic junction in Rajagiriya and continued their Satyagraha campaign.
The foundation stone for the 42nd model village that is to be constructed in the Hambantota district was laid today under the auspices of the Minister of Housing and Construction, Sajid Premadasa.
The Sri Narendra Modi model village that is being constructed in the Ranminidhan area in Tisamaharama consists of 315 houses. During the event held today, land deeds and financial assistance was also provided to public in the area.
The most powerful nations in the world are lining up to help us. Even before we lay the red carpet, they are coming to our country. Sri Lanka and India are planning on signing an economic trade agreement. It is called the ETCA or ETCA. After establishing a close relationship with India, we will further strengthen economic ties between our countries. Those who do not wish to see this happen, those who are jealous of this, are saying that if we sign the ETCA, Sri Lanka's sovereignty would be lost. Through this agreement, goods that are produced in factories in Sri Lanka can be sold to 300 million people in India. When poverty level reduces, when employment opportunities increase, when economic growth rate is increasing, what will happen to the joint opposition? They will be lost for words.
It is reported that the Sri Lankan mission in Saudi Arabia has failed to meet with a group of Sri Lankan left helpless after being denied pay for 8 months and are now facing shortage of food.
A factory in Al-Khobar, Saudi Arabia has evaded paying the wages of the expatriate workers since November last year. Among those denied wages are 12 Sri Lankan nationals. We are helpless and we seek an immediate solution. We have no food or drink. We are living on handouts from friends. We don't have money to buy anything. Upul Deshapriya noted that on Monday the mission in Riyadh will be informed of this and a solution will be provided. We hope that they will discuss the matter with the embassy in Riyadh and solve this issue for us. Friday and Saturday are considered as holidays in Saudi Arabia. However, the Sri Lankans note that diplomatic missions must operate taking into account the nature of the issues faced by their citizens and not according to any calendar. Friday and Saturday are considered as holidays in this country. Therefore, we hope to discuss the matter with the authorities on Sunday. We will present facts on the distressed Sri Lankans at these discussions. The primary fact-finding is underway. Sunday is the first day of the week and we hope to discuss the matter with the authorities so that relief can be provided to these persons.
Well, that's a wrap of the news. Take care. Good night.
Hotline 0114 896 896. www.newsfirst.lk. Feedback at newsfirst.lk.